Alright, so I'm going to show you how to add seam allowance to your sleeve. Okay, so here I've already traced off my jacket sleeve sloper, and now it's ready to have seam allowance added to it. Okay, it's been trued, so let's go ahead and start adding. There's nothing really new to this. The real thing, the only real thing I want to talk about is adding it to the hem. Now we're going to add 1-inch seam allowance to the hem of this. All right. On some sleeves you might have a sleeve facing, but in this case we're going to face the hem of the sleeve by adding on 1 inch. Okay, so I'm adding 1 inch here to the hem of my sleeve. Now I'm going to go ahead and add on 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around the sleeve. Alright, you notice I didn't add on any seam allowance past the hem of my sleeve when it comes to the seam of my sleeve. Alright? That's because if you think about this, when this folds up, this hem folds up into the sleeve, we want it to take the shape of the sleeve up here. Okay? Because when we fold it up, we won't want there to be too much extra or not enough of the hem allowance, or the allowance of the hem, to go around the edge of the sleeve. We don't want there to be too little of it or too much of it where it gets bulky. So you can do this a couple different ways. First we're going to do it is basically I'm going to score the fold line of the sleeve hem, and then I can just fold that under right on that fold line. There's my fold line. There we go. It's folded underneath. And while that's folded underneath, I can just trace on the stitching line of my sleeve. And then unfold that. Now you can see my perforations in the direction they go. Now I can just draw on that new stitching line. In black so you can see the difference. And then add on 1/2 inch seam allowance onto that. Okay, so you can see now how the hem allowance on the sleeve goes out. Alright, so when this folds up to finish this sleeve off and attaches to the lining or whatever it's going to happen to it, it will match exactly to these edges. Alright, now the other way you can do it is, if you don't have a tracing wheel, what you can do is just trim off. Once you've added your 1 inch, go ahead and cut that. Then you can fold back on the fold line of your hem, and then cut out the rest of the sleeve if that's folded back. And you should now get the same result. When I unfold the hem, you can see how the two edges jut out rather than go in how they originally did. Okay? And now we have the correct hem allowance on our sleeve when we fold it back. And that's how to properly add your seam allowance to your sleeve.